Shaun Jones, senior mortgage broker here at Mason Finance Group in Queensland. Here on the Online Prosperity Show, where we're talking everything to do with home loans and maybe even a little bit about me being a corrections officer.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and we're here to dig under the surface of success and peel back the layers of struggle, just so we can show you exactly what it takes to overcome, transform, and prosper. And I'm really excited for the episode that we have on today because we have Shaun Jones from Mason Finance Group who's joining us. Now, Shaun, how are you doing today?
All is well, Prosper. Thanks for having me. It's an absolute privilege to be on your podcast. So, doing well for a Tuesday. I believe it is today. I have to remember what day it was just.
Great stuff. You see, when I saw your name come through the list of people we are going to have on the show, I thought it was Shaun John, and I was like, are we there now where we've got a budget for, household names like that? But you see, this is the best we could do on short notice. So
it's a very popular name, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. But before we obviously dive into today's episode, I mean, Shaun, you used to drive trains and work in corrections. So that's like trains, handcuffs, and an occasional angry prisoner. Your life must be so good right now.
I wouldn't say occasional. It was probably quite often. But yes, as you can probably tell, I'm from New Zealand, so I've been in Australia for 6 years. So when I was in New Zealand, I started my sort of career as a corrections officer. Did that for 4.5 years. So for anyone that doesn't know, that's basically you're looking after the inmates day to day. So it was a very interesting career. It definitely opened my eyes up to sort of what happens in the background after, you see on the media going through trials and tribulations, going through court. You don't really see the behind the scenes of actually when they go to jail. So, our job is to basically be the caregiver of them and make sure that they don't get institutionalized, make sure that they continue to better themselves so that they can continue their life once they're free to be able to do better in the community. So when you say corrections officer, it's not just looking after prisoners, it's teaching them, it's making them better people. So yes, it was hard. I won't lie to you. It was, that 4.5 years, I saw a lot, I did a lot, but it gave me good life experience that I've sort of, worked into a few different areas of my life. But finished that up and then drove some trains, which is probably every little boy's dream. So I did that in Auckland as well. So I was driving the electric trains and the diesel trains. So again, when you ever get the opportunity to say that you drive a big machine, especially to little kids, my son, it's every boy's dream to drive a big machine, and I got to do that as a job. So I did that for a couple of years, and then moved over to Australia. Wanted to get out of shift work. Shift work can be quite hard. Obviously, during corrections, you do 7 nights in a row, and I love my sleep, so not getting to sleep at night is really hard. And then trains, sometimes you'd finish at 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes you'd start at 3 o'clock in the morning. So again, it's shift work is not for everyone, and we wanted to get a family together. So my sort of always dream is I love to help people. That's just I love helping people. It excites me. So best way to do that is to get someone into their own home. So I thought, why not lending? So I started off as a personal banker with Westpac. So I started just being a teller and then slowly worked my way up and then being a broker for the past couple of about 3 years now. So very diverse career, I'll say, Prosper.
Absolutely. But you know what? And thank you so much for sharing that with us, because it's from these little pieces of work experience that we actually then create and formulate the person that we are today. And if you look at the thread in between all the jobs that you've done, it's all been people. And
Correct.
it's whether it's at their worst. I mean, obviously corrections, that's the impression that I have. And also 3 a.m. train drivers, usually not the best kind of people that are either going home or
Very true. Very true.
so yeah, now you at least get to see people in their best, because when somebody celebrates having made a purchase in their home, that's memories for their family and things of that nature. But did you notice this through line that people have always been the thread that has moved you?
Yeah, look, yeah, as I said in corrections, there was always a point where, you would sit down with a prisoner and, you didn't get to mentor because that's not my job, but you actually got to sit down with them and ask them how did they get to that point. And I sort of wanted to be the one to go, well, if you got to that point, how do we get you to a different point so that you're not on the same trajectory? And that's why I just love working with people. So trains was a little bit different. That was just sort of, me, doing something that I love. So I wanted a bit of a break, but that's why I got into broking, because I wanted to have that transition for people to come see me and be a people person, but also get them something that they love essentially. And if you can be someone's journey from start to finish, that's that's always the best thing in my opinion. Obviously, I couldn't do that as a corrections officer because you've got some people on life serving life sentences, and obviously I wasn't going to do that job for life. But that's why I love the home buying journey, is because from day dot you'll see them, and then as soon as that house settles, that's it's not the end of the journey, right? If you think of a loan as 30 years, you get to be on that journey for forever. So yeah, it is a bit of a thread between them, but probably a bit of a difference for trains. But I love the thread that I am doing at the moment. Mortgage broken. It's just yeah, it's my huge passion.
Absolutely. Now, Shaun, I don't know about you, but there's a stigma around somebody who has been through the corrections sort of process. Maybe been incarcerated, and people have a funny way of looking at them, whether it's looking for work afterwards and things of that nature, which means there's that element of judging. I wanted to ask you personally, when you would meet an inmate in prison, would you judge them, or were you just doing your job?
Never. No, I never judge someone. That they've been through the court system. They've already had someone that's judged them for what they did. My job was to purely look after them and get them through their next period of life, however long that was. So, yes, it could have been the most heinous crime that they committed. My job's not to judge them. My job is to make sure that they're showered, they're fed, and they're rested. That's a corrections officer's job. Obviously, there's boundaries within, where they're incarcerated that they have to apply, make sure that they follow the rules. We're rule enforcers, if you want to call it. But I'm never to judge someone by their actions. They've already been that process, and that's why they've been incarcerated for that, for what they've done, essentially.
Absolutely. You know why I asked you that question? Because so many people, as you would understand, not a lot of people go past the second or third or fourth property, in especially here in Australia. And the reason is because the amount of scrutiny that somebody has to go through in order for them to get a second or third or fourth loan is just so much that previous mortgage brokers have not made it easy for
Mhm.
people to, especially people that are working on their own. So if you say you approach it as what you see, I think that gives a lot of reassurance to so many people that have been previously judged for maybe overindulging on Netflix or too many ice creams, that mortgage brokers just tell them, nah, because of that, I'm not going to look at you twice.
Yeah, correct. And from a loan perspective, it's all about the income. So when someone comes to me and says, they only earn $20,000 per year, and I tell them, look, you can't get a loan right now, so let's make a plan together. I'm not going to judge them because they only earn $20,000. I'm going to work with them to be like, how do we get you into your first property and get you to a point of your income being maybe 50,000, and that's going to get you to an entry level property. So it's not judging someone by their own personal circumstances, and generally they can't own their circumstances, right? So um, it's all about the income. So if there's not enough income, let's put a plan in place to see what we can do to achieve that. Or if it's another 2 years, let's wait 2 years and see what it comes to. But I'm never going to judge someone by their circumstances.
Absolutely. See, one thing that a lot of people are really afraid of is getting themselves into debt, and
Of
that
course.
that being the case, people have an understanding that this is gonna be with me for the next 30 or some cases 40 years, and that really scares a lot of people. What was it like when inmates came in and you knew they were in for life? What's the sort of demeanor that somebody has when they know what the stakes are than when they're just afraid?
I think to sort of catch it early on and make sure that their mental health is up to standard, because if you get it sentenced for life or 30 years, that is a long time, and you need to make sure that they're mentally prepared to be able to basically go through life for the next 30 years. Where you've got gang members, you've got rapists, you've got murderers, you've got all of these different people that you necessarily have never met before, and now you're living with them. So from a mental point of view, your mental headspace has to be incredibly strong to be able to walk into prison. The amount of sort of first time offenders that did something wrong, they had a collision because they had one too many drinks. First time they actually went to prison or going through the justice system, they're the ones that needed to be sort of a little bit more protected. Obviously, you've got your gang members that it's just day in, day out. That's just unfortunately what they do. But it's sort of your first timers. You have to make sure that their headspace is okay, and that's my job as a correction. It's not, sorry, I shouldn't say it's my job, but it's my job to help them. Make sure they're getting up for breakfast. Looking, did they even take their breakfast this morning? Did they leave it on the tray? Because that's always an indicator that something's not right. Um, so it's always just checking in with them and just making a mental note as to who's who, who's doing what, and even day-to-day activities. Some inmates would only get 1 hour out of their cell per day. So if they're not taking the hour, why are they not taking that hour? Do they just want to stay in just because they're having a bad day, or they could be not wanting to engage with anyone? So it's being aware of your circumstances, I guess.
Mm,
But headspace is a big one.
absolutely. And how do you put that across into the way that you now work in mortgage broking? Because I think a lot of people also that fear of not knowing what the next 30 years is going to look like, and it's their day to day and things of that nature.
A big one is probably with, especially first home buyers, I always put it in the perspective of paying rent. So, let's say you pay rent of $600 per week, right? Let's say that your mortgage repayment is $700 per week. Theoretically, yes, you are paying $100 extra per week, which you'd have to find in your expenses somewhere. But would you rather that $700 go towards your own equity, or have $600 go towards someone else's equity, which you're not building up? So when you put it in the perspective, and for the past sort of 3 years, we have had the interest rates on the high level. They are starting to come back, and that's why the rent versus mortgage, it's very, very similar. Like the repayments that I've done for most people, they're nearly in line with what the rent is actually going up. In some cases, so it's actually in some cases better to purchase a property. But it's all in perspective. They go, yes, they come to me and go, oh, Shaun, it's a 30-year loan term. I was like, yeah, it's 30 years, but do you want to be paying rent for 30 years? So when you put it in that perspective and you get people thinking, going, okay, if I can cut what's the old saying? Avocado on toast every Saturday. I think that's one of the ones that was going around. And that's why it was created, because if you don't spend that sort of $30 or $40 every couple of days, there's your $100 that could be going towards your extra mortgage repayment on your own property. So it's all about perspective.
Absolutely. And while you were talking, you did mention, in a prison setup, there's gang members, there's brawls, and things might just erupt and things of that nature. But this also happens in real life. I mean, I think you once went through a near disaster where a client nearly lost their property because of a small lender policy that would have slipped through. Could you just maybe walk us through that experience and how it actually changed the way you work?
So it's more common than not, is that, we've got very experienced brokers in here, and we do write a little bit of high volume, and we get access to business development managers, senior credit managers, where we can actually get scenarios signed off before we lodge the application. So it's very common for someone to ring into the office, say, hey, I've been to this other broker, I've been to this other bank, and they've submitted the application and it's been declined. So on this one, I think we had about, I think they had about, 3 days left on their finance clause, and it'd be declined. And when you deep dive into someone's personal circumstances or income, it always tells a better story. So more than likely, the other broker or bank didn't really ask the right questions, or didn't verify the income the way that it should. So with the experience that we have in the office, we're so able to put everything together and literally go back to the same bank that it had been declined at and presented the income another way, and it had been approved. So it's all about, again, it's coming back to that perspective. If you can explain something, if you can give common sense prevails and show why it prevails, then you're going to give someone a bit of comfort. And we've got people in place at different lenders to go, oh yeah, makes sense, right? Let's more than happy to do it. But if you interpret it a different way, if you present it in a way that's not, doesn't understand, of course they're going to say no. So it happens quite often where we do rescue missions, and that's just because it hasn't been presented in the right way. But yeah, it's a very common occurrence where we're sort of the rescue mission team picking up deals, which is why, again, comes back to I'm helping people. I'm loving what I do. If I can help someone get the finance done, there's many ways this can cat, is the old saying, and we've got 45 lenders on our panel, so we've got a good range to choose from. So if it's not going to work at one bank, we've got 44 different options that we can utilize somewhere else.
Absolutely. See, those are the kind of things that obviously now make a difference for customers, and they don't quite see what is happening behind the scenes. And this would have been a crisis moment. I mean, high stakes, 3 days left for finance clause to come in. People would have probably lost deposits, credibility, and everything else that would have happened. And there's one thing that happens when people have gotten to that sort of stage, finance hit on their credit score has already been done. So if they then don't get that, then that means that's like the end of the road for them. So how did that crisis moment lead to maybe the changes in the processes and systems that you are now working on, especially the ones that are invisible to the customers and that you're now working with?
Yeah, so we do advice meetings. So that's where we get all the clients' documents together, and they come in for a face-to-face meeting. We still do face-to-face. I know that everything is sort of online now, but we do face-to-face, we do video, and we break down the income. And, with the brokers that we do have in the office, we've probably got well over, 60 or 70 years worth of lending experience. So that's where if there is a tricky deal, we've got a little broker chat, they'll go, hey, what's this, has anyone come across this before? And they'll go, yep, let's use lender X, Y, or Z. And then we'll reach out to the business development manager and say, hey, we've got this deal. I know it's outside policy, but is there a way that we can get an exception because we've got X, Y, and Z as evidence? We can actually get that signed off So we do that right from the start. So that's my job, is to figure out where we need to go based on the income, based on the person's circumstance, deposit. Like there's so many contributing factors. But if that's not done at the start, that's where it can fall flat. So we do that right at the start.
It's like obviously making a meal, right? If you don't have the right ingredients right from the start, you're not gonna make a tasty meal at the end. So I really value that sort of back work. So
Mm.
you keep talking about first home buyers. I haven't heard you talk about investors or people with finance histories that are a little bit complex. So who do you really enjoy working with, and what sort of resonates with you?
Everyone. Um, First home buyers purely on the fact because there are so many incentives out there for first home buyers at the moment. There's been a change from the 1st of October that's coming in. So here in Queensland, the cap is going from 700 to $1 million. New South Wales is going to 900 to 1.5 million, which is crazy for first home buyers. Can you believe it? But Victoria is going from, I think, 800 to 950. So there's so many changes with first home buyers. So especially on so I'm from the Sunshine Coast. The market is still, a little bit, the median price is probably around that 800 mark. So there's still a lot of first home buyers. So that's why we do a lot of first home buyers. Investors is a little bit different, where in the fact that it's more of a timing thing. I was meeting a lot of investors probably about 12 months ago, and it's your mum and dad investors, first time investors, and when you break down the repayments per month, they might have to put in an extra $1,000 from their own pocket, and not everyone can afford to do that at the moment. So they'll go, let's do renovations on our property, or and get our property value worth in, let's say, 12 24 months, and then look at investment. So it depends on the time of year. We're in spring season, so spring season is always the time of year where contracts, people like to sell their homes. So we're seeing a bit more sort of next home buyers coming in, people that are upsizing. So I don't know if you know much about bridging finance, but bridging finance has been come back with an absolute storm, and it's nothing to be scared about. It is an easy product, and it is a product that is very well, if you can utilize it really well. It's going to get you into that next property with ease. So I work with anyone that's wants to give me the time of day. More than happy to, yeah. Anyone, I'll work with anyone.
Great stuff. I mean, obviously, you did mention that near fail of where you guys rescued a house, but what has been maybe your biggest win so far? Not just in numbers, but especially in the impact on somebody's life. Because when you help somebody get into a property, those memories, that's their livelihood. That's where they're gonna raise their family and things of that nature. And has there been a story of maybe somebody who thought home ownership was maybe something that was a pipe dream or far-fetched dream, but you actually managed to get them there?
So we're big advocates for pre-approvals. So we do pre-approvals all the time. And probably nearly 2.5 years ago, I've been I've met these clients for the first time, and it actually their position wasn't good. They haven't had any deposit. Their income wasn't enough to get them to that sort of property stage. And then about 6 months ago, they came back to see me, and they'd managed to save a deposit. They'd managed to get better paying jobs. And they were actually able to go ahead and purchase a property. And throughout those 2 years, I didn't leave them for 2 years and go, oh, you just come back to me when you're ready. We've got a really good process where we actually check in with them every 3 months to go, hey, I know we only spoke about 3 months ago, but has anything changed? Has anything in your circumstances that we can review, using parents as a guarantor? Is it worth paying a little bit of lender's mortgage insurance just to get in your property? So we don't just do a meeting and then leave it. We're always checking in to go, how can we get you to your next step? And what's the plan in place? So these first home buyers, as soon as I get a settlement email from the bank, I drop what I do, and I'm on the phone saying, congratulations, I've just got the settlement email, and these people literally cried on the phone. And that's just the thing that does it for me is to be like, we've had this journey for, over 2 years, and they've now been able to get in their home. So yeah, that was super special, super special.
Mm. You see, the thing about property is there are people that, in every family, I'll maybe call out Uncle Rob and Auntie Sally, who always sit at the corner of the table, especially at Christmas. And they always have the story about anything to do with mortgages, property, or financial crises and things of that nature. And I believe so many young people are exposed to these not non-informed people, and one, it obviously disheartens them to think, oh, if this has happened before, I don't want this happening to me, I'm still young, and things of that nature. So how do you then work with people that have so much of that influence from Auntie Sally, who gives them $50 every Christmas?
It's it happens more often than not that someone's met your neighbour's barbecues, uncle's dogs, and they've provided information to say, oh, you can't do this. And this is why we encourage advice meetings and to get your documents together. I know it can be a bit of a hassle getting documents together, but that allows me to have a good understanding of your financial, situation. And if I can understand that, I'm going to give you the correct advice and actually say to you, look, this is actually achievable. Because I've had it with, many people that have purchased and said, oh, you need a 20% deposit. I'm like, no, you don't. You need 5%. They go, oh, really? And where'd you hear that? Oh, uncle's brother's dogs told me. You know what I mean? So this is why we do the advice meeting, is that when you actually break it down with them, and this is why I love face-to-face meetings, because I share my screen with them so they can see what I'm seeing. And if they can see it, they can understand it. And as soon as you show it to them, they can go, oh, it actually, makes sense now. So this is why advice meetings are so important. I didn't just get documents and going to go, oh, we're going to go to CBA because that's your best option. I'm going to go, you've got 10 different options. What would you like to do? You can service with all 10 different banks. Their products come with offset accounts. They don't come with offset accounts. These are the fixed rates. So I don't dictate where we're going to go. I let the client gets them to choose, because that makes them a part of their experience as well.
Mm. You see, there's a lot of misconceptions, and I think financial education is something that is really needed out there, because so many people are just going off of information that is, not going to
Not
help them
true.
in the, yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of misconceptions, especially in the mortgage industry. Is there one that you think might actually surprise people the most, that they're holding on to, thinking, yeah, I've always known this. My dad has always known this. My uncle has always known this. Because, I mean, for instance, people might actually think brokers are biased towards lenders that will give them, the best rate, or, and they wouldn't always go for the lowest rate available. What do you wish people would understand about how it actually works?
I think with brokers, it's quite important to when you give someone choice, I think it gives some, a bit more control for that someone. There are people out there in brokers that will go to different banks because it's fast, it's easy, but if you're just using the one bank, it is a little bit tricky. But there's a misconception out there that people go to different banks, to the one bank because you get paid more. Um, Absolutely not true. We get paid pretty much the same across all banks. So that's probably the misconception. We don't charge fee for service. I know some brokers do. But, if you have a look at a first home buyer, if, they've spent, 2 years trying to save, $40,000, and I'm charging them $2,000 for my time, I'm taking away their hard-earned money when I'm still going to get paid from the lender itself. So, yep, we don't charge fee for service. We never have. We never will. Because we get paid by the bank. So that's another well, it's not really a misconception. That's just what we do differently.
Mm. But Shaun, you wouldn't understand. I mean, you've got a secure job, and obviously, like you said, whether with or without us, you're still gonna get paid by those banks. maybe don't have to worry about, kids' welfare, well-being, and things of that nature. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, this is why we're big advocates for pre-approvals. We don't get paid on pre-approvals, but people still need to understand how much they can borrow. So some brokers don't do pre-approvals because you literally don't until someone finds a contract to sale, you don't get paid at all. And I've had clients that, like that first home buyer example that I gave you. I've been working with that client for 2 years. Now, I didn't get paid in that 2 years until they found a property. But I'm not going to go and ask them for money for my time because that's not the journey that I'm taking on. I'm taking on a journey of buying a home. So yeah, does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I'm also just maybe just talking about, yeah, you wouldn't maybe really get it because, our kids are having certain, maybe school requirements or certain personal requirements that they are undergoing. And maybe you're just looking at our finances, you wouldn't understand this.
Yeah. Each circumstances is different, and this is why having 45 lenders on the panel is very handy. Each policy treats dependents differently, treats private school fees differently. So yeah, we do have lenders that fit everyone essentially.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. And on a personal note, you would also understand if
Yeah.
parents are going through something on with regards to their kids, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so, and this is why we try and get as much information up front. I've done separations, I've done divorces and things like that. So it does get a bit personal. So you got to always just be a little bit careful as to, the advice that you're giving and how it's treated. I always go back to the corrections days is that, just because an inmate is in there for, life of murder, they could be the most softest teddy bear in the world, but you still got to treat everyone the same, right? So yeah, each circumstance is different.
Yeah. And Shaun, you work with maybe parents or, other carers that might be saying, I can't be getting myself into this. You don't understand, what I have to deal with and how I have to actually respond to the needs of my kids and my family. And, you're just asking me to sign on the dotted line for a 30-year mortgage.
So I'd say that so my son unfortunately he's had two open heart surgeries. So he was born with four heart defects, and at day 7 we were basically told that he needs to have an operation or he will die. So I have been put in that position where you are forced to sign on the dotted line, and it's not it is unfortunately you don't have a choice in the matter. But if I take that sort of, tie it in with mortgages, is that I came, if you've got, you don't want to be paying rent for 30 years, right? And you want to be paying your mortgage. So sometimes you do have to make that decision to sign on the dotted line. You might not want to, but it has to be done. And yeah, I can resonate with hard choices. It was a very hard choice to hand my son over to a surgeon that I knew nothing about. But yeah, no, he's doing well. It was definitely a tricky point of our lives. He's a beautiful soul, and the wife is a beautiful, incredible mother. So yeah, hard time, but it was definitely a learning curve, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And well, congratulations on that. And, all the best for your son right there. And I think he obviously now is in capable hands, moving forward.
Yeah, he's a three-nager, I think they call it now. So he's definitely got the
Teenager,
attitude.
yes.
Yeah, no, he's doing well.
Absolutely. Now, if somebody's watching this right now and is thinking, "Oh, I quite like, what Shaun is talking about, and maybe I need to find out more information," where can they go to, and how can they maybe start their journey with you?
Yeah, so easiest way is I love getting phone calls. So I don't know if we can put the phone number on, but literally Mason Finance Group, that's who we are, that's what we do. We actually do podcasts as well, like yourself, Prosper. So it's called Interest Rates with Mates. we're all about education here as well. So we're on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can download it for free. But we've got a range to choose from: first home buyers, guarantors, self-employed. So it's just little snippets to basically give you an understanding of, again, everyone's circumstance is different. If there's something that resonates you, you can always give me a call and go, hey, listen to this podcast, and I know that you can do 1 year in isolation with self-employed. Tell me more, because the average or the misconception is that you need 2 years. It's not the case at all. Commission, bonus. So we've got all of these podcasts, and it's just an education tool on Instagram, LinkedIn, just trying to be different. So yeah,
I like
Shaun
that.
Jones.
Absolutely. And definitely, I will be putting all the links in the show notes so that people can actually get started on their journey. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about this podcast. What can people tune into? What sort of issues do you discuss on there, and what can people benefit from it?
So each we go through different seasons, and obviously, we're really tied into what real estate agents do, property, things like that. So there's different podcasts at different time of the year. But when we started the podcast, I wanted to, basically a library of policy where someone could literally go, I'm commission earn. I only earn commission. What do I need to do to be able to use my commission to be able to get a loan? So it's just little snippets that we go, okay, this lender requires 12 months. This lender might only requires 3 months. So we're obviously going to, we deep dive into different topics on the podcast. We do general chats as well. We've got special guests as well. But like I said, it's more of an education piece for someone to find information on. If you go onto Google and you search, I don't know, which lender does 1 year in isolation, you're probably going to get a lender that doesn't do 1 year in isolation, but they've somehow worded it in the SEOs to be at the top of the Google, right? So, that's the idea of a podcast. It's true and factual information. Yeah, that's what it's designed to do. It's designed for a bit of fun. I said to you at the start, when I do podcasts, it's a one-take wonder, and I've done it before where my phone's rung, someone's knocked on the door, and you just got to laugh it off, right? So I enjoy doing it. So yeah, interest rates with mates. It's very popular. I love doing it. Probably like you do this every day.
Absolutely.
It's just a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I quite like that, because the more people are empowered, or the more information people have, the more it's actually easier for them to execute. And I think it's information changes situations. I was told of a story. Have you ever been skydiving, Shaun?
Once, yes.
All right. So when you go skydiving, usually you are connected, or you're harnessed with an instructor, right? And that guy for him, it's just another day at work, but for you doing the jump for the first time is like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna land or whatever it is, and things of that nature. So what I'm talking about in terms of information here is he knows the parachute is going to help. He's got enough evidence and data that he's done it so many times that for him, it's just yet another day at the job. But for the person who's doing it for the first time, they don't have that information. They don't have that confidence. So it's very difficult for them to be calm and steady and, be able to actually land safely. So the more information,
it's important. It's so true, because in the podcast, you can get to a point where you are starting to revert back to bank jargon, like LVR, LMI, things like that, and I have to stop and go, okay, not everyone knows what LVR is, so you go loan to value ratio or lender's mortgage insurance. So it's very true, is that if you are educating someone, break it down for them so they actually understand it, because I've been caught out a couple of times where you do it. If you're doing it day in, day out, it becomes second nature to you, right? So just making sure that the education piece is actually understandable.
Oh, absolutely. But also, I mean, we did mention Auntie Sally and Uncle Paul, but the media has been relentless in talking about high interest rates, economic uncertainty, lender policy changes, somebody goes to jail for certain things, tax this, and just the opportunities.
I'll give you a good example, if I may. So with the 5% deposit scheme that's coming, sorry, I'll take it. So that scheme has been available for about 3 years. Okay. So when the announcement came out that the 5% deposit scheme cap is changing in each state, the amount of calls that I was getting to say, "Oh, there's this brand new scheme out." And it's like, oh, well, no, it's been here for 3 years, but it's the media behind them saying, well, this is a brand new scheme. It's there's no income caps, there's unlimited spots, and it's been around for 3 years. But what people got to be cautious of is that there is stamp duty concessions for each state. So here in Queensland is 700,000. So if you go above that mark, you actually start to pay a bit of stamp duty. So I've had people go, if I can purchase a property up to $1 million, that's 5% is 50,000. And I've come back and said, well, unfortunately, your deposit is 85,000. They say, well, oh, that's not 5% of $1 million, Shaun. I was like, no, but you got some stamp duty costs in there that you need to factor in. So the media hasn't factored in that stamp duty side of things. And it's been quite of not a hard process, but, the education piece, right? It's 5% plus your costs. It's not just 5%. So media can not get it wrong. It's just they need to have a little bit more information that's put into the undermine. But
obviously they sell the sensation, not the actual, the
of course,
actual outputs and stuff.
it's down for me to bring them back down to reality.
Great stuff. Now, Shaun, I really appreciate the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life's journey and what you're now doing to help people, secure, reasonable properties and assets out there is remarkable. Now, if some people are still umming and ahhing and they're like, oh, nah, I'll never go into debt or, things of that nature, what would you say to somebody who's just sitting on the fence and hasn't really considered talking to somebody like yourself?
Probably a couple of points. It's been quite a big thing over the past sort of 10, 20 years to go back to the bank that you originally got your bank account with when you're a little one and go see the bank manager and he will get you a loan. Policies change nearly every day. Right. So if you can get a better option somewhere else, then why not explore that option? And this is the idea of the broker, is that an option is presented to you based on 45 different results. And, our market share is about 80% now. And so 80% going to brokers, 20% going to direct back to bank. So people want the option. So if you can give someone that option, and, I've had clients that have gone directly to the bank and they've been able to get them an interest rate of, let's say, 5.6, and I've been able to sort of do the meeting and go, hey, what if I get you 5.39? If you have a look at how much saving that is, that's nearly $10,000 worth of interest per year. So you're saving someone money by giving them an option. So my advice is always get a second opinion. It's free to do. It doesn't cost you anything, and if you can end up saving money, then that's a win in my book.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, some people will be excited to jump on board and get to learn more from you and maybe be a part of what you're creating. Besides the podcast, what are you working on now that, people can be excited about in the future that, they'll be on the lookout for, especially when they're now connected to you?
Yeah, so we social media is huge everywhere you go now. So, there's many different avenues that you can do: TikTok, Instagram. So we do have Instagram pages as well. Again, how do you set yourself apart from the rest of the brokers? So we're trying to do different things creatively. We do first home buyer nights here in Queensland, and we're going to be starting to do webinars as well. So webinars for self-employed people that in commission and things like that. So that's in the pipeline. Again, it comes back to that education piece. The more people know, the more people understand, the easier the option that you're giving them is going to be much easier.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Shaun, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with us today. I mean, all the tough moments, systems, the triumphs, everything else that you're doing to help others be, do, and have a happier existence. I think you've given us more than, your time. You've given us a map on what's possible, especially when people just refuse to accept that this is just good enough, because so many people, like you said, are hanging on to going to their banks and, you know, hoping the bank will look after them. But I think recently ANZ just laid off over 3,000 people. So if your bank manager was amongst the people that was laid off, now who are you going to turn to and things at that nature? So thank you so much, Shaun.
No, my pleasure. And yeah, ANZ got fined 240 million, which is the biggest fine ever. So yeah, it was in the news yesterday. But yeah, sorry, excuse me. Branches are they are closing around us. Unfortunately, more online banks are popping up, and it's just if I can provide you a good and safe option that meets your current needs, yeah, let's discuss it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching right now, if you found today's episode helpful, or if something Shaun said lead something of a possibility light in your mind, I encourage you to maybe watch this episode again or share this episode with somebody who you know is wrestling with trying to get into either their first home or just maybe get onto the property ladder. And maybe somebody who actually feels like they can't get a loan because of some small but critical detail, or maybe just people that are feeling overwhelmed with this whole financial maze. Pass this on. Don't say a word. They will thank you later. And if somebody has shared this episode with you, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show so you don't miss out on episodes like this, where we are talking to experts who are definitely making a change and making ways to make our lives easier. Until next time, I will be putting all the links in the show notes so that you can connect with Shaun. And yeah, I hope you will make sense of the information that we put out today here on the Online Prosperity Show. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.